We just got ourselves an update in the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit. It's quite an interesting letter coming from the SEC. We've also got ourselves a juicy partnership between Ripple and an actual country's government. I've already made a short about it, but I'll explain it here further. We've also got two additional things happening today that are huge. I already described it in the last couple of days. Ethereum Shanghai fork, should be afraid of that. Inflation numbers, and together with that, actually the FOMC minutes later today. And over on the Bitcoin chart, we got ourselves a clear rejection, which is also something we might want to be worried about. Anyway, all that and more will be covered in this video. So if you're interested in crypto news and you enjoy these updates, make sure you press that like button. As a side point, I'll just quickly say here, there have been a ton of these lawyers who have come out regarding the Ripple versus SEC case, regarding XRP, that have said, what's happening here is interesting for the SEC, but they can't win because the battle that they're fighting is almost unwinnable because of what they asserted at the start. They're basically saying every single part of XRP is a security, and it always is. Whereas if they went only after Ripple sales of XRP, they probably could have won. But because they're claiming that every single XRP transfer is a security, it's just so hard for the SEC to actually end up in a victorious position, which is also why I think the hatred toward XRP has come down a significant amount. Let's stay honest right here. XRP has one of the most hateful communities. To reiterate, not inside, but I mean everything surrounding it. There have been so many times where I've been called out for supporting XRP. A lot of my friends literally said I'm an idiot for believing in this crypto, but there I stand, holding my coins and being extremely happy because I think they're about to be the future. It's the best bet for making crazy money in crypto if you ask me. But all that is changing around. Many of these big behemoths, these Bitcoin bulls, they're secretly holding XRP in their back pocket and they're just not telling it to ya. But trust me when I say that so many more people than might meet the eye actually hold XRP. Anyway, let's talk about the most recent letter that the SEC posted late last night. The SEC has just filed a letter of supplemental authority in further support of its motion for summary judgment. And these supplemental authority briefs, they basically mean there's been a case that's ongoing or settled somewhere else where a judge gave some sort of verdict. Again, this is as far as I understand it all. And because of the fact that the judge's decision from the SEC is pending, they give some extra information as to what other judges might have said. It's happened multiple times in the case before, and I'm also not surprised to see it here, but you might call this another delayed tactic from the SEC. We have some evidence that suggests, I'm going to show that to you guys in just a second, that the SEC is playing crazy mind games because of what they have cooking up in the background. Again, I'll show that to you, just wait. But this is more of a, we have no way we can win. We are quite desperate. Let's look for anything out there, even if it's extremely far-fetched. Let's look for anything out there that might help us get a little bit of ground. Because again, all these guys within the XRP community and every single lawyer I've spoken to knew that this case should have actually only taken about a couple months, couple weeks kind of, because it should have just been thrown out. The SEC's argument that every single sale of XRP is a security, it just can't work. Again, in my opinion. And so what they're doing here is like holding on to a falling bridge. You're holding on and it feels good that you're holding on, but you're still going to fall. On April 7th, a district Massachusetts court issued an opinion granting the SEC's motion for summary judgment. Again, this is in another case. And denying defendants' cross motion for summary judgment. The court found that defendant, the people that got sued here, Commonwealth Equity Services, found that the defendant, those guys, violated negligence-based provisions of the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, relating to its failures to disclose certain conflicts of interest. The irony is great. In doing so, the court rejected a due process affirmative defense, alleging that the SEC failed to provide defendants with fair notice of the disclosure obligations asserted in the complaint. And so again, as far as I understand, the SEC is trying to go after one of Ripple's affirmative defenses, the fair notice defense, by now explaining that they won that in a other case on April 7th. For that reason, they should also win it here. That's kind of what I feel from all this. Explaining again, the SEC has been expressing concerns for a longer time, etc. They just explained that whatever happened there in regards to fair notice is identical to the SEC's position in this case. So that's what they're trying to do. Do they have a fair point? Well, if you get a rat cornered, it's going to do some crazy stuff. Even if it doesn't make sense, he's gonna try, right? Because he's almost dying. I kind of feel that that's what's happening here as well, where it's like, it keeps getting more and more far-fetched, but it's worthy of an attempt. Because I don't think the SEC can really dim down all this fair notice. What I mean with that is, regardless of what happens in other cases, right? I don't think the overlap is significant enough where the judge is gonna be like, yeah, that makes sense. Now let's give it to the SEC. I think she understands all the notices. She understands every single piece of info that was sent or that was out there. She's been on this for 2.5 years now, right? She's dug very deep, but she understands the SEC's morals and their way of doing business, which is just sketchy to say the least, in my opinion. And so I don't think she's going to be fazed by this, nor is she really going to use it a lot, if at all, if it gets that far into the process. But there's some other crazy stuff that happened. So yesterday in my video, I covered that the Investor Advisory Committee at the SEC and to the SEC, which are independents advising SEC on desirable policy to protect investors, recommended the SEC to treat essentially all tokens as securities and pursue aggressive enforcement, arguing crypto harms racial minorities. Okay, I didn't even know that. And JW Verrett says, when I left the IAC, SEC staff asked IAC for what expertise areas needing filling. IAC leadership said crypto expertise. Gary Gensler refused to put a crypto expert on the IAC, though many names of crypto lawyers who are SEC alumni were put forward. Now we know why. Little side note of something I forgot. Coinbase, if you are a Coinbase user in the US, any of you guys, and you had your XRP on there, apparently they're going to start going through with the FLR airdrop. At least that's as far as I saw. I personally have nothing to do with this. I'm just reporting on it for you guys. You can see that from Coinbase Assets. We intend to begin the airdrop distribution process today, during which outbound transfers will be unavailable. Stay tuned for additional details on the FLR token airdrop on our Coinbase Assets handle, which is pretty huge. Be prepared for a FLR dump, but hey. Jeremy Hogue was going on a tangent about why the SEC is just in a really stupid position and explained just why it's really hard for XRP to be classified as security here. But what I care most about is articles like this. The SEC is hiring general attorneys for its crypto unit in multiple US cities as the industry crackdown continues. Again, all these things actually start following along if you read through the lines correctly. It's just pretty mind-boggling they were able to get this far and that they're still continuing to push further and further. And yes, I can start screaming and be outraged, but this is the system that they've created, and it's for a good reason. And I personally think it's because they don't want to see you very wealthy. It's honestly what I think. I think if the main goal was to really help US investors prosper, the SEC would have had a completely different approach. And I think every single person watching this will agree with me. Even if you're not from the US, I have never set foot in the US. That doesn't mean I can't understand, I can't fathom the way the SEC is handling things that are meant to destroy the investor morals, I'd say, in the United States. And these crypto, blockchain, Web3, fintech companies that have anything to do with DLT, they're all being pushed down over in America, and I don't understand why. Again, we've described earlier that even guys like Trump are noticing that a lot of money is flowing out of the US. We've seen many different rules now coming up from EU, from China, from all those countries in the Southeast Asia of less reliance on the US dollar. And even Trump said again, the times with US dollar prospers might be over. And then you see things like this, where CZ even says, HK, Hong Kong, banks start to support crypto. We read an announcement about that a little while ago. We will see more funds moving there. USDT alone is $80 billion worth of market cap, more stable coins to come. The point here being, there's going to be so much money flowing over to Asia. China, nah, all right, that ain't the country for it, but they have their little caveat, which is Hong Kong. I think Dubai, where I live, is another nice place where a lot of money is flowing towards, but it's still in Asia, all right? So just a lot of money is flowing from the West over to Asia from this crypto space, but also because the investor rules apparently, take a look at Singapore, take a look at Dubai, take a look at Hong Kong, are just so much better. I think most of the people I've met either live in North America, now that are busy with crypto stuff, for example, because they can't leave. Even if they leave, their passport kind of holds them there. Dubai, Singapore, Bali, Hong Kong. Those, I think, are the main places that I notice now that people move to. They're all moving away from Europe, and a lot of them are also trying to get out of the United States, moving more towards islands like Vanuatu and getting themselves a passport there, or perhaps somewhere like Cyprus or so, but I haven't heard that too often. Anyway, it's not as if Europe is entirely sitting still. It's not as if all they're doing is just sitting on their asses and hurting people. No. For example, Ripple signs a central bank digital currency deal with Montenegro. Is XRP involved. I actually made a short about this, a little small video over on my channel. Hopefully you guys checked that out already. If you didn't, the story is pretty simple. The Central Bank of Montenegro says it agreed to work with Ripple in developing a strategy and pilot program for launching the country's first CBDC or national stablecoin, which it's pretty wild that Ripple has gotten so far and that they really are one of the only fintech companies that is really getting on this level, especially for one that's this involved in crypto and it's actually based in the US, because that's a scary thing here. Anyway, trust me when I say that I'd like to sit here for another hour or so explaining things to you. But in about 3 hours from now, we've got ourselves the inflation, and later on, we've got ourselves the FOMC minutes. And I just want you guys to be prepared. So right now, what we've most likely seen, again, we've had an inflation rate of 6% right now. Expectation is that it's going to go towards 5.2 or 5.3, just down a significant bunch. And in theory, if it does, this should be bullish for most markets. But because of all the recent developments, there's a good chance that it actually does not, which is also something you should keep in the back of your head. Again, right, that the inflation might not actually come down as much as was expected, even though it's the economic forecast from all these economists. And then later on in the day, we got ourselves the FOMC minutes at 10 p.m. Dubai time or 8 p.m. Netherlands time. Again, this is also 4:30 Dubai time, 2:30 Netherlands time, and 12:30 UK time. One thing that's interesting to note, though, is actually the rejection which we have just seen. So what I'm showcasing to you guys here is a broadening wedge. And one thing that's quite peculiar is how this is played out. I've been covering this for, I think, a week or 3 maybe. The first time that we actually put this in, I think it was in March, end of March somewhere. And it's interesting how nobody really saw this playing out, but now, as time progresses, indeed you can see just how far along the pattern it is aligning itself by. And the point here being, we just got ourselves a rejection. It would not be too crazy for Bitcoin, after attempting this break, to actually have a little bit of a come down. What I mean with that is right now we got ourselves the confirmation, all right? We got ourselves the breakout candle with confirmation. This, in my own opinion, is a sign that I should have crazy long positions open and just go absolutely wild because the bull market is quote unquote back. This is literally all we were waiting for, as again, it's a confirmation on the daily that is huge. And the reason I'm still so skeptical, though, is not because I don't believe Bitcoin will push through. I do believe that the probability of going up now is way higher than coming down. It's because we've got these inflation numbers, and it's because we've got the Shanghai fork later tonight. Again, the Shanghai countdown is about 13 hours, and you have to understand what's inbound with all this. What's inbound, and that's again the most important part of all this, is that people will eventually be able to take out the Ethereum that was staked for a couple years, basically. And as you guys know with unlocks, the moment that people get access to their funds, even though the Ethereum price might be down a lot from when they started staking, they have access to their funds, and that might actually be a let me get rid of it now because I've been accumulating a lot of ETH in these years from staking it, but also maybe my price is up or maybe I'm just done with it. I have access to my money. When people have access to their ETH, it could go 2 ways. One, I guess a couple. They could sell it for Bitcoin because that's the wave right now where people are selling altcoins for Bitcoin as it usually starts the season. They could sell it, period. They could just sell their ETH, be done because they've made money. Or, this is another very important one, they could use it to buy crazy altcoins, which would be pretty huge, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's mostly going to be people just either doing nothing or selling it massively because they've made a ton of profit. As I already described to you guys with Mt. Gox as well, I think it's a similar situation. And if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, well, prepare with articles like this. 19.2 thousand Ethereum, aka $36 million, was just transferred from an unknown wallet over to Coinbase. And what I'm seeing here, right, is people already preparing to dump Ethereum. I am warning you here that people could indeed, I'm going to come back here, rephrase it real quickly. I am warning you here that Ethereum could significantly dump in the next couple of hours. Because again, as people get access to their funds from the Shanghai fork, we're not in the safest of positions. So how do you prepare? Well, you're kind of screwed because of the inflation numbers and the FOMC minutes meeting coming out on the same day. So there's a big volatility spike around the inflation. Then there's a big volatility spike surrounding the FOMC minutes, as many people are waiting for that in regards to everything they think about the interest rate. And then we have the Shanghai fork. 3 major events in one day after Bitcoin just closed itself in such a bullish position. But it did get rejected on some other fronts as well. It's just very peculiar to watch this all play out. Again, I've described to you guys multiple times seems we are right now in territory we've not seen in 300 days. Most of the metrics I showed to you guys quite recently were showcasing that things right now are in a crazy bullish position, and if you're not stacking it up, I think you're just wasting money. And it's funny that I made a video about unprecedented low volatility the moment before Bitcoin started spiking up. I think it was the day before, or maybe even the same day still. But even right now still, the volatility that we're seeing, this is for Ethereum monthly returns, is still very significantly low for any time in history. What we're seeing right now in terms of movement is very small. And so all I'm saying, guys, is be prepared for major moves. Ethereum could be next up, and cycles don't always have to repeat themselves. The usual cycle was Bitcoin, right? Money moving into Bitcoin, then moving over into ETH, XRP, some of the big coins before moving out to shit coins, etc. It could be so that because of this fork that things are actually changing, where Ethereum is the major winner here. A lot of money flowing into Ethereum. There could be a pump potential, but there could also be massive dump potential because people get their unlocks. And the reason I'm saying there's two sides to this coin is because the fact that Ethereum is upgrading is bullish on its own, right? We're getting to a new phase, huge for Ethereum, etc. The reason I'm saying it's negative because they get an unlock, because they get more Ethereum, they get more access to money, which means there's more selling pressure per definition. So we're in a little bit of a shaky position. Be prepared for that. And yeah, if you haven't yet, make sure you put the notification bell on because you want to be notified every single time a crazy update comes out. You can always decide to not watch it, but you'd rather be notified. That's what I always say. What if the Ripple lawsuit ends tomorrow, for example? If you didn't press that button on, you might have not gotten notified and you might hate yourself for the rest of your life. What if tomorrow I find a crazy opportunity to make $1,000 in like 10 minutes, but you need to be early? Well, you didn't click that video, so you missed out on money, etc., etc., etc. Better to see what videos you get and then think, should I watch this? Maybe decide, nah, I won't. But at least get yourself the opportunity to. And also, guys, if you haven't yet, make sure you press that like button if you enjoyed it. And that's about it. See ya.